What's up, everybody? HGIII Cosplay here with Con Culture Podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Max original series, The Penguin, in the Matt Reeves The Batman universe. If you haven't seen this series already, spoiler warning, spoiler. We're going to be diving into a lot of parts of this show. Again, if you haven't seen it, go ahead and stop this video and go give it a watch. Highly recommend it. You'll see why. If you haven't seen it and you're still watching this, maybe my thoughts will convince you to watch it or help you make the decision not to. Ultimately, the decision is yours in the end, but let's go ahead and dive into it. You've been warned. Here we go. Let's dive into the good. First off, just incredible world building and writing with this series overall. My hat's off to the writers of this show. They're slowly bringing this world of Gotham to life and all its characters. And maybe I'm impatient. I just can't wait to see more of these characters come to life. But with this 8-episode miniseries of The Penguin, I loved it. It was so cool seeing this version of the Penguin and his origin story, which the last time we saw this character, he was a larger-than-life, very surreal guy that lived in a sewer with 3 fingers and a pointy nose and ate raw fish. And I love that version that Danny DeVito did, but it was so cool to see this version of this realistic mob boss, gritty guy that's just downright evil. Every single character arc in the show was just so cool to watch. Some of them were just heart-wrenching, and some you couldn't look away, some were jaw-dropping, and then some of them you're trying to sympathize with them, especially Oz, and you're like, wait a minute, this kid's really evil, and what this guy's doing is just beyond messed up, and you're rooting for him at the same time. Of course, none of these arcs would have been made possible without the amazing performances by Colin Farrell, Kristen Milioti, Renzi Feliz, Deirdre O'Connell, Clancy Brown, and then Mark Strong. One of the cons about the show is a little upset that John Turturro didn't reprise his role as Carmine Falcone, but I understand why he didn't do it. You know, this character has a very awful history with violence against women, and I totally understand why he stepped away from that, and I wouldn't want to play that kind of a role or be remembered for playing that kind of a role, but it was necessary for this character, unfortunately, because you see what a scumbag he is, that he throws his own daughter in Arkham Asylum to save himself the persecution for his crimes, being the hangman, then calling his daughter then the hangman. Again, heartbreaking watching her go through that, and then jaw-dropping to see the things that she does to come back out of that. That's one of my favorite themes with this show, is the dark sides that each one of these characters has and how they act on it or don't. Like Victor, oh my gosh, to me he's the canary of this show. I feel a lot of us thought he was going to be Victor Zsasz at some point. Maybe he was going to have a name change or something. As soon as we heard Victor, I know me and my buddy was like, is this Zsasz? It's going to be Victor Zsasz. And I'm glad they didn't go that route. I'm so glad they didn't do that, because this character was, again, the Penguin's canary. Was he going too far? Was he pushing things too much? He was his right-hand man. Like, he was literally about to kill the kid for stealing his rims. And then he becomes like this father figure to him, basically, and they become so dependent on each other. And it is just heartbreaking. Again, it was just heartbreaking to see what he's gone through with his family, with his girl, leaving her at the bus station when he decides, you know what, I'm not leaving. I'm going to make a name for myself. And the most heartbreaking, tragic thing about that all is it doesn't work out for him in the end. I mean, his right-hand man, the guy that he pretty much called family, is choking him out on the side of the harbor after everything. And we know why he does it. It's still beyond messed up why he does it. But again, that is the evil side of the Penguin. Kristen Milioti's performance as Sophia Falcone was jaw-dropping. One, she's a beautiful actress, a beautiful person, but the range that she has in this show, where she becomes like this untouchable mob princess to then becomes the mob lord herself, and all the things that she's gone through, being utterly betrayed by her family and thrown in Arkham because she was seeking the truth for the wrongful death of her mother and all these women. It was heartbreaking. Again, I'm going to keep saying that about a lot of these characters, but what's a villain origin story without some heartbreak? The interaction she has with Julian Rush, which a lot of people think he might be the next Scarecrow. And you can see in some screenshots, you can see Scarecrow's glove and his mask in the background. Maybe he's working with Jonathan Crane. Maybe he is the new Scarecrow. I don't know. I'm getting beyond the point here. One of my favorite things was Sophia's interactions with all these different characters and how she learns from them. especially from Deirdre O'Connell as Frances Cobb. Oh my gosh, her performance was phenomenal. Playing this woman struggling with all kinds of mental illness, it was, again, heartbreaking to watch. And still grieving the loss of her two sons. And then come to find out at the end of the show, she knew the whole time. Oh my Lord, that episode had me on the edge of my seat the whole time. Especially when they go back to Monroe's and have that intense family therapy session. Oh, where Sophia makes Oz and Frances confront each other's past, and she's known the whole time, and she ends up stabbing her own son. It, again, was like a dumpster fire and a train wreck you just couldn't look away from. Another shout out I want to give is to Clancy Brown, aka Mr. Krabs. That's what I'll always know him as, but seeing him as Salvatore Maroni, oh my gosh, like I want more. I want more. And just seeing this strong mob boss just trying to get revenge for a gruesome death of his family, to then finally getting his revenge out against the guy, and he has a freaking heart attack in the subway car. And it was just like, oh my gosh. It was just such a plot twist at the end. Like, I didn't think it was going to end for him like that. And then, of course, Oz rising against it and taking advantage of that situation. It was incredible. The twists and turns of the show were incredible. Couldn't have done it without the writers, and of course these amazing actors to pull it off. I want to give a shout out to the editors of this show. One of my favorite scenes in this whole series was the Bliss episode when Victor's in the club passing out the Bliss drug, and he's having a full-blown panic attack. He's going back to the night when the Riddler blew up Crown Point to flood Gotham, and he can't keep his nerves straight. He's freaking out. The visuals in that were incredible, and the explosions are going off in the lights of the club, and he's dropping the drug everywhere, and he's coming in and out of that moment and being there, and then that moment in the club. It was just so cool to watch. I love the choices that the directors made in these episodes, especially the episode when Julian is taking Frances through the night that she wanted to have Oz killed. We're obviously going back to this flashback when Frances wants to take Oz out for the night in town right after her sons have died, but it's played by Deirdre O'Connell, and she's wearing the dress that her younger self was wearing, and we're going through that scene as the older version of Frances in that flashback, and it was just really cool to watch that, because then when we snap out and we see the light that Julian was using to hypnotize his patients to going back into their memories, it was such cool storytelling. To me, no good comic book show or movie is without some good music, and they definitely did that in this show. I loved the scene where Sophia's going through the house and gassing her whole family. That song choice was just so larger than life moment, where she's just taking her own and making her own life. And then this one cracked me up the most. I forget which episode it was. I think it was the first or second episode, but we get into Oz's car, not his nice plum purple car, but his town car that he goes to go see his mom in. He's playing Dolly Parton 9 to 5. Like, that just absolutely killed me. It brought a nice sense of humor to this very dark show, and I absolutely loved it. All right, let's talk about the cons. Mentioned this briefly earlier. One of the most jarring things of this series for me was the recasting of Carmine Falcone from John Turturro to Mark Strong. Both amazing actors. Again, I totally understand why John stepped away. It was still just jarring to see this character that we saw in the Batman movie not be played by the same actor. I know this happens all the time in the industry, but every time it's still jarring. It's hard to watch sometimes. Nothing against Mark Strong. He did a phenomenal job. Loved his version of Carmine. It made me hate the guy, especially for everything that he does to his daughter. It's like, you're that cold-blooded, you're going to not answer for your own crimes, and you're going to throw your daughter under the bus because she talked to the press? Holy cow. Another con, spoke with a few friends that have seen the show, and one thing we kind of both agree on is just how weak Oz Cobb is and his dependency on other people. Again, I think that's a writing choice on purpose to kind of show how much he is dependent on the people in his world, and why it makes it so much more cold-blooded at the end that he kills his right-hand man. And again, I think this is very much an origin story, which means when we see Penguin down the road, he's not going to be that weak guy. He's been there. He's seen that movie before. He knows what he gets when he depends on people and he cares too much. And yeah, it was just kind of hard to watch. Sometimes he seemed a little whiny, but at the same time, I thought it was a great writer's choice. So I take it kind of with a grain of salt. But as you can see, There was very little I didn't like about this show. To me, this show was near perfect. There was a few things, as you saw, that I didn't like about it. There was definitely more good. So I would give it 8.5 out of 10. I really love this show. Highly recommend watching it. Those were my hot takes on it. I would love to hear your thoughts about the show, what you're excited to see in the next Batman film, or if you're just over this universe in general. Drop a comment below. Please like and share. It really helps our page out. And again, thanks for watching, guys.